not too sure. I think we will start with a quick round of introductions. We obviously note and recognize the presence of our parent ministry here represented by the Deputy Minister and also by the legal officer and other officials from the ministry. We also recognize Parliament. I note the chairperson is around and some members of Parliament and staff of Parliament. I noted there was at some point the Media Commission. I am not too sure if the chairperson was in here, but was saying the vice is coming, so we still recognize them in absentia. The leadership of our conveners, that is of Zacras, leadership of the Media Alliance of Zimbabwe. I see the chair is here, and the Zimbabwe National Editors Forum coordinator, our development partners, journalists, friends and comrades. So maybe we'll just take a quick round for the table at the back. Just quickly your name and organization, so that when you are being welcomed, the chairperson of Zacras will know who he is welcoming. So we'll just start from that table. Maybe Maria, then we'll just go around. We have no mic, but I'm sure it's a very small meeting. Our voices can be audible enough.
Good morning to you all. My name is Maria.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Cynthia Marafu. I'm a freelance.
Thank you.
Morning everyone. My name is Mokone. I'm the chairperson of Parliamentary Portfolio on Information, Media and Broadcasting Services.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. White Aqua Talent.
Morning, I'm Betty Morning.
Morning, my name is Bruce Osami. I'm with Media Monitors.
Morning, my name is Jabolo Gube. I'm with the Zimbabwe National Editors Forum.
Morning, my name is Bulelani Musoke. I'm with the National Community.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jill Zugo of Zacras.
Morning, I'm Leo Munezi. I'm with Yoja in this local.
Morning, my name is Nyabante. Thank you for wishing I see the media going.
Morning, my name is Kudzai Pangwari with the International Media Support.
Thank you.
Morning, my name is Gift Mandipiri and I'm a citizen.
And Joe? Thank you.
My name is Rachel Merida. I'm with Radio Cheetah.
My name is Lofty Dube. I'm with the MCZ. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ndozondoz. I'm with Zacras.
Okay. Then the national coordinator and the chairperson will be introduced, but I'm sure you know the colleagues that are here. So, Comrade Chairperson, without much ado, I would invite you to welcome your guests and to also outline some of the expectations and the objectives of this meeting. Thank you very much. Number CEO Foka, one more mirable.
Thank you so much, and good morning to you all. My name is Tobias Sarachel. I'm the current chair for the Zimbabwe Association of Community Radio Stations. And without much ado, let me say, all protocols observed. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Zimbabwe Association of Community Radio Stations, it is my pleasure to welcome you here to this wonderful breakfast meeting on community broadcasting legal reforms under the theme Creating a Sustainable Legal Environment for Community Radio Stations in Zimbabwe, Walking the Talk. And I would like to thank the Deputy Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcast Services, Honorable Kindness Faraza, the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Media, Information and Broadcasting Services. I'm sure we are going to be joined also by the Deputy Chairperson from the Zimbabwe Media Commission, Commissioner Jasper Maposa, and also other key allies to Zacras like MISA, MAS, VMCZ, among other key stakeholders for your presence with us today. As we all know that the world commemorated the World Press Freedom Day on the 3rd of May, and Zacras would like to take this opportunity to express our sincere appreciation and acknowledge the efforts which were made by the government of Zimbabwe to license 14 community radio stations as part of the drive to complete the 3-tier broadcasting system. And to me, it is a clear indication that the government Thank you. So to me, it's a clear indication that the government of Zimbabwe is considered community radios as mediums or tools for community development, as a medium for inclusion, especially the marginalized communities across Zimbabwe. As Zacras, we thought of taking advantage of the recently celebrated World Press Freedom Day to host this key, important meeting with our stakeholders who are involved in terms of regulating the operations of the media in Zimbabwe. And hence the objectives of these meetings, we have 2 objectives. 1, to address the legal and administrative issues that are favorable, flexible, and convenient to the operations of the community radios in Zimbabwe. And secondly, to establish the media policy direction to dictate the operations of community radio stations as proposed by the government. And from these 2 objectives, you can tell that we are here to critically discuss on the issue of the future of the community radio stations in Zimbabwe, because that future is to be secured. And for us as Zacras, when we talk of the future of community radio stations, we are also considering the aspect of strengthening the governance systems of the community radio stations in Zimbabwe, the issue of production, and we are saying everyone gets to be on board. And secondly, how do we strengthen Zacras? How do we strengthen the community radio stations? Because we are gathered here to discuss about the sustainability of these newly licensed community radio stations. With these few words, I would like to thank you so much, and I wish us a fruitful discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, the board chairperson, for welcoming us and outlining the key critical objectives. And I'm sure, as I outlined it first, we want to be zooming in on to how we are going to be creating a sustainable environment for these community radio stations. I like how he particularly emphasized that we want to walk the talk, walking the talk, because I think we've been talking and talking, and we now want more action. And it's also important that this conversation is happening when government is in an advanced stage of considering the Broadcasting Services Act Amendment Bill. So these conversations that we are going to be having here, I'm sure will not go to waste, but will be taken seriously in the spirit of walking the talk. So at this point, I want to invite the National Coordinator, Sandra Mazunga, to come and outline the Zacras key advocacy position for it to be considered. Yes, thank you, Honorable.
Good morning, Honorable Deputy Minister Kindness Paraza, Chairperson of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee, colleagues in the media fraternity, and our partners who are here present. As alluded earlier on, today we are here to have belated World Press Freedom Day commemorations. As we celebrate this important day to us, we have come together to actually look, reflect, and evaluate the strides that have been made in the media fraternity. We as Zacras today want to present our key issues to our policymakers and to our colleagues in the media fraternity and say, yes, radio stations have been licensed, but the work has just begun. It's still a journey. We can pat ourselves at the back, but there's still a lot of work to be done. We've come a long way, but our community initiatives face challenges, and these include exorbitant licensing fees, the duty on studio equipment, the sustainability of these initiatives. So we are here today to appeal to our government. I think if you look on your table, we printed out a small flyer, and I'm hoping each and every one of us today present will carry that in their pocket and remember Zacras. And each time you meet a policy maker or a partner, you will also continue the conversation. So to the government, we are saying to you, promote the rights of community journalists by ensuring their safety, especially during the election period. Zimbabwe is now in the election period phase, and we are hoping our journalists will be protected. May the government fully respect editorial and programming independence of community radio stations. May they fully support the sustainability of community radio stations by repealing parts of the Broadcasting Services Act which do not allow community radio stations to advertise. I think we all know adverts bring in money. And we are saying, may the government allow our community radio initiatives to advertise. May the government use the broadcasting fund in equitable manner to ensure that the community radio stations also benefit. May the government also promote diaspora or foreign investment in broadcasting, a situation that we feel will improve sustainability of our initiatives. May the government make the Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe more autonomous and strengthen its function without political interference. And I hope our BAS colleagues are here, because we are saying to you, can you adopt an open-ended mechanism of licensing community broadcasting services by accepting applications any time of the year? May they lower the fees for licenses to ease the financial burden for applicants for community broadcasting services. Remember, these are community initiatives. Adopt a user-friendly application process for community broadcasting services that takes into account the technical limitations for community-based organizations that are interested in establishing radio stations. May they operate in a non-partisan, fair and transparent manner, including opening the adjudication process and the decisions not to license be made available to the applicants as well as to the public. With these appeals and few advocacy issues, we hope to work hand in glove with our partners, and this includes the government, We also include bars and all the key stakeholders in capacitating our radio initiatives. We want to ensure they continue contributing meaningfully to the development of their communities. With these few words, I would like to thank you and for your time in listening to us, and we hope we'll walk this journey together. Like I indicated, the work has just begun, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I noticed you also received a round of applause from the Deputy Minister, which is one step towards realizing our objectives, to say, no, urumende kuterera. Yeah, on a logistical bit, apparently our washrooms, we just use this door. They'll be on our right for both gender facilities are just there. And also to acknowledge, we have been acknowledging your chairperson was here, the ZMC chair. Now we notice the deputy chairperson in the spirit of grand entrances is also arrived. And I think part of the demands here is speak to the work of the commission, particularly on community journalists. I think one issue that has been emerging has been that of their accreditation and their failure to access some journalistic privileges, or their safety being compromised as a result of either them not being accredited or recognized, or without the necessary safety nets. So, Pamuno Zotzokero, Deputy Chair who commission, it's something that is there to look at, particularly for those community radio initiatives. So thank you for that, National Coordinator. We are also going to slightly change our program, just slightly. We are going to start with the legislative agenda. We understand the honorable members of parliament who is going to be delivering this presentation, this submission. We need to quickly dash out to walk the talk, to go and implement these issues in parliament. So we are going to start with the legislative agenda on community broadcasting, particularly post the licensing of these community radios, to then see what the agenda is. As I've already alluded to, we are in conversation of amending the current legislative framework for broadcasting, and it will be good to hear from the lawmakers themselves. So here we have the name of the portfolio committee chairperson, Honorable Sipomokone, to come and deliver this presentation. Let us warmly welcome him to the podium.
Good morning. Once again. Allow me to unbandage myself. I'm COVID-19 free. I was told this is a breakfast meeting, so you have to be free and engage each other in a free atmosphere. But it is really important for me to observe protocol in this house. So as such, I would like to respect the Deputy Minister present here this morning, Honorable Kindness Paraza, the honorable members that are here today, the chairperson of Zacras, the members of the 4th Estate, and everyone here present. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My role here is very clear. I was told to give something, or rather to present on parliamentary legislative agenda on community radio broadcasting. As you know that as Parliament, we've been clamoring for community radios, and as such, I don't know whether it's an achievement on our side. But I think we've achieved, because we've seen the licensing of 14 community radios. I think for that one, we deserve a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, the government in accordance with the Constitution, through the relevant institution, in a much welcome development in line with the Broadcasting Services Act, put in place the necessary measures for licensing, and indeed went on to license a number of community radio stations. If you know, it's one of them is already on air, Avusheni in Chirezi, and I'm told that the other one is going to be launched this Saturday by the ministry. That is Nyangani Community Radio. And I'm also told that there are a lot of community radios that are going to be launched this year. This new development is also in accordance with devolution, as media is being decentralized, giving voice to the community, filling in developmental gaps, in a way giving rise to developmental journalism, and also taking into account a human rights-centered approach, as people have the right to be informed, the right to impart and assess information, and most importantly, freedom of expression. Through community broadcasting, even those at grassroots level are now able to access national programs. Vision 2030 will also now become a reality, and local response will be enhanced as the central government can now communicate effectively. There is now increased oversight of everyone and the diversity of voices and opinions through localizing local interests. Community broadcasting is going to assist in disaster risk management and emergency situations, which include droughts, climate change situations, cyclone, and the COVID-19 pandemic, and other pandemics that are going to occur as we go on. Now that community radio stations have been licensed, a lot of work needs to be put in place in order to ensure their viability. Parliament performs 3 key functions, and these can be summed up as legislative, representative, and oversight. In this regard, ladies and gentlemen, the Portfolio Committee is seized with the mandate to ensure the viability of community radio stations, either legislatively or through its oversight and representative role. Radio is still the most popular information platform. In this regard, there is need to refresh content to include the return of radio drama, as well as expanding rural coverage on financial reporting about rural development. In this regard, Parliament will ensure that the Ministry comes with adequate policies and financial support for local content production. In order to close the information gap that has been prevailing, there is need to also extend live broadcast parliamentary debates, and as this will enable the people to play an oversight role on the members of Parliament who represent them. Licensing of community radio station is a welcome development, as in a way government is now taking over from dominance of foreign media, which is rampant with misinformation and disinformation and hate speech. Hence the need for constant cooperation and coordination between the state broadcaster and the community radio stations. In accordance with the recommendations from the IMPI report, there is need to amend the Broadcasting Services Act so as to allow government and development agencies to support community radios for up to 50% of the annual working budget, with the balance being financed by the community. Community-based internet radio services should also be introduced in Zimbabwe, in addition to community radio stations. These will help in assisting areas that are too small to have an actual radio station and could be cheaper and easier to operate. Community radio information hubs can play a critical role in strengthening access to information through local languages, and this should be subsidized as a public service with properly trained and ethical journalists. On policy, the Ministry of Information and Publicity should also develop a clear national policy framework for media and journalism training, working closely with the industry. In broadcasting, knowledge is vested in everyone. This includes the community, the broadcaster, the licensor, and the regulator. Bearing that in mind, all the key stakeholders must cooperate and coordinate to ensure that these radios thrive. Key stakeholders, the key civic society, and the government need to conduct skills audit to find out what is available on the ground and prefer workable solutions. There is need to assist in all-round capacity building training that will include areas on 1, production, 2, sourcing sponsorship, 3, programs, 4, coming up with programs that facilitate sustainability. The Ministry of Information and Publicity must amend the Broadcasting Services Act to allow community radio stations to advertise and to be enterprising. I think the earlier speaker also spoke on this, that the Ministry of Information should amend the Broadcasting Services Act to allow the community radios to advertise. So I think this is really an important issue that actually needs to be addressed. There is need for community radio stations to tap into new media technologies in order to be visible and generate revenue and work like any other media organization. All stakeholders need to look into issues to deal with content. Is it ethical? How to cover sensitive information? How to cover election news? How to cover gender sensitive information so that these community radio stations add value. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, campus radio stations could work with other community radio stations to help in capacitating them, as we are not living in a vacuum. There must be a hybrid production due to the connectivity. Training institutions must research key issues that help in sustaining community radio stations, as no community radio is the same. In short, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I prepared for you on the parliamentary legislative role in as far as community radio stations are concerned. So with these few words, I would like to thank everyone for listening to my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. That was very articulate and comprehensive. And I like Honorable Chairperson's remarks, particularly as she focused not just on financial sustainability, but also on content sustainability. It's not going to be easy. Our sole television station, our national broadcaster, that is, yes, we know we now have others, but who are still yet to really be accessible on free-to-air platforms, so we can still talk of our national broadcaster. It has challenges in filling 24 hours with content, local content, interesting content, engaging content, and so forth. So in your remarks, Honorable Chairperson, indeed, it will be important for us to have a policy thrust that will enhance the skills base, that will widen our areas of expertise, such that these community radio stations will not only be financially sustainable, yes, we want that, but they can also be relevant content-wise, they can be relevant in terms of the role that they play. And you also say we need the Broadcasting Services Act to be amended to speak to this aspiration and reality, which will lead to a conversation that is going to be led by the media lawyer, a legal and ICT officer from the Media Institute of Southern Africa, Gwetaredu, Miss Nopilo Smanje, who is going to give us this perspective on what needs to be reformed in order for us to live these aspirations. I hope by the time the Deputy Minister presents the Ministry's policy direction, we can still have some MPs available to deal with the plenary. I hope so, Chairperson.
Okay, sorry, we have our committee meeting right now. It's 10.
Okay. All right, so I'm sure you, if there are any issues that need Parliament, we will still knock at your door, knowing that you have a no-door policy, where it's not even open, there is no door, you just get in. So yeah, we'll invite now a Nompilo to come and share the law reform perspectives of community radios. Let's welcome him with a round of applause.
Wow. Okay, I'm realizing I have a height challenge here.
Don't worry. We can see you.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, no, that's all right. Good morning, everyone, and thank you to Zacras for hosting us for this very important conversation around community radios. I think that the unfortunate thing for me, while Nigel did introduce me very nicely and celebrated me as our media lawyer, most of the key issues I would have wanted to speak to have already been spoken on. But Tobias, when he was doing his introduction, said that we are allies. So as an ally, I'm going to also reiterate and emphasize the issues that have already been mentioned, both by Tobias and Sandra, and also by Honorable Sipomo Kone. Also because I'm speaking before the Deputy Minister, so at least eventually when he speaks, he will get to maybe give us further assurances that some of the issues that we are raising are going to be addressed. Honorable So, I want to acknowledge we've had so many conversations around community radios for quite some time, even from recent engagements at a broadcasting conference. So these issues are not new. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because in some of the conversations we've had, the Deputy Minister was present and he assured us that a Broadcasting Services Amendment Bill is on the way and that it will reflect some of these key issues. So as I just speak to that, it would be interesting also to note that the timing of this engagement is very critical because I believe conversations around the amendment bill will be happening very soon. And maybe some of the key questions people would be asking would be maybe why community radios? And I think Honorable Sipo really emphasized on that, the importance of community radios around promotion of language and culture, access to current and contextual information, available discussions on socio-economic development in their community, and of course that aspect around community participation and community ownership, which is very important for the media landscape, but broadly also for access to information for the communities. And when we look at our existing laws that speak to the community radios or that regulate or that provide the legal framework for community radios, we have our Broadcasting Services Act. Unfortunately, I got in here when introductions had been made already. I just meant to also look at the Broadcasting Authority as I speak to some of the issues. Who is representing the authority? Anyone? I'm not seeing any. It's okay.
They are on their way.
They're on their way.
We are.
Honorable, Tito Tangay Ministry, iripo asibazi, irieka, yakashimiririra. So yeah, I mean, we appreciate the framework that we have in existence from the Broadcasting Services Act and also from the regulations, Statutory Instrument 39 of 2020. And I think some of the key issues when we speak about community broadcasting service, we start off from what exactly we mean by that. And Nigel already spoke to the free-to-air broadcasting service. And the law interprets that is not operated for profit or as part of a profit-making enterprise, which provides programs for community purposes and is capable of being received by commonly available equipment, and also does not broadcast programs or advertisements on behalf of any political party. Those are some of the key issues that come out in the Act. Also, the law gives the licensed entities 18 months to go on air from the dates of licensing, being the framework for them to put together their equipment, to put together human capital to run the station, and also put in place all logistical arrangements necessary to start operating. And then in terms of the role of the authority, which is another key issue that we might want to discuss, is that it is up to the authority to determine that there is a need for provision of additional broadcasting services. So if the Broadcasting Authority sees it fit that now it's time to issue a call for applications, or now that it's time for additional broadcasting, to be up to the authority to call for such applications. So that's another legal position as well. When we look at the statutory instrument and in its definition of what a community is, it says for purpose of licensing community broadcasting services, it means a group of people bound together geographically with shared norms, values, and tradition whose control is domiciled in members of the geographical space. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because there have been several conversations around what exactly should be a community radio, or how exactly should we define a community or a community broadcasting service, and I'll touch on that for further conversation, of something that we can just think around for further deliberation. And then another key issue also is that a community radio's governing body shall be constituted by key interests within the community concerned, drawn from all interests such as education, agriculture, business, health, law and order, and local and traditional leadership within that community. So already I think there have been conversations around structures for the community radios. So this is the current framework and the existing provision. Also noting that in terms of the SI as well, there is mention that community radios shall not broadcast any commercial advertisements other than sponsorship announcements and events affecting the community. In brief, I mean, I already saw the fact sheet, the pamphlet. It has some of the key issues, so I would not want to really repeat them. But in brief, these are some of the key issues that have been coming out in our legal framework. And now when we look at the key concerns now from the communities, because the reason why we speak of reform is that we would have seen that there are certain gaps or certain concerns that need to be addressed, or certain issues that the community radios themselves are grappling with. And I think one of those issues has already been raised, the sustainability question. In terms of the current framework, can community radios be sustained financially through that framework? In terms of content, how exactly can we go about it? Content sustainability, financial sustainability. So that sustainability question is one of the key concerns. Then also issues of ownership or investment in community radios. I'll speak to the proposed reform as well. Another key issue, maintaining independence, whilst also avoiding manipulation by powerful community members or by politicians and political parties. Then the issue of governance structures, I already mentioned the framework that is there in terms of the sectors or clusters of people that should be represented in the governing body. From the conversations we've had with the community radios that were licensed, because of these key issues that we have mentioned, particularly on sustainability, there have been constraints in terms of their capacity to acquire equipment, but also there have been gaps in terms of their capacity to develop structures and to develop policy documents that support their structures and their operations. And then of course, skills development. I understand there have been some trainings that have been done before through UNESCO to capacitate volunteers of some community radios in partnership with government. But that issue also of capacitating the human capital, because the community radios are going to be relying on their community members for most of their work that they're going to be doing, community journalists, volunteers. So the issue of training, issue of skills development is a very important issue that we need to take note of. So having said that, these are the few issues I want to reiterate in terms of the proposed areas for reform. One of the key issues which has been reiterated, which I want to also mention, is the issue of allowing advertisements. Madam Sandra spoke to that, and I think Honorable Sipo spoke to that as well, because we are trying to look at possible means of promoting financial sustainability for the community radios. So while we take note that in terms of even the interpretation of a community broadcasting service itself, it already emphasizes that there's no advertisement, it's not for profit. But we need the community radio initiatives to be sustained. We need them to maintain their operations. We need to make sure the communities continue receiving information or accessing critical information. So how do we then achieve that? So this is one of the key issues that we might need to consider. And this all feeds into the broader issues in the media framework. Identifying or thinking of new business models that our media organizations or media institutions can tap into. I think Madam Sandra spoke to that also earlier. We need to start rethinking how community radios can also benefit from the new thinking that other media institutions are taking in terms of new business models to promote sustainability. So allowing advertisement is just one, but also the issue of allowing for more foreign investment in broadcasting, particularly for the community radios. Having noted that the sector itself is capital intensive, but also that not many local players have the financial muscle to invest into the sector, particularly in the community radios themselves. I understand, when you're applying for the license, there's also mentioned or a requirement that you need to show that you have the capacity to sustain. But also when we acknowledge that information is a public good, when we acknowledge that community radios are creating an avenue for exercise of fundamental rights by communities in terms of free expression, media freedom, and access to information, I would then not take, I would suggest that we do not then take the approach to be strict in terms of the licensing, but to consider that while we provide the licenses, there will be a need to also support sustainability. Then also in terms of the Broadcasting Services Act, there's establishment of the Broadcasting Fund. I think on this end, it's just to emphasize that we would appreciate the intervention of the Broadcasting Authority, which is the trustee of the fund or the administrator of the fund, to ensure that our community radios, particularly those that were licensed and are yet to be operationalized, can also benefit from that fund. And the reason why I mentioned the definition of community broadcasting service and community in terms of the Broadcasting Services Act and in terms of the statutory instrument is that there have also been other suggestions that have been made in terms of reform to say while we have been issuing licenses based on sometimes language-based, but also specifically on geographical location, defining community based on geographical location, can we also not consider defining community in terms of areas of interest? For example, the disability rights community or disability rights advocacy communities. As Mr. Zimbabwe, we work with community-based organizations, and I remember Signs of Hope being one of the CBOs that was considering applying for a community radio license, and we had to advise them that in terms of what qualifies as a community and a community broadcasting service, we're not talking of groups of interest, we are talking of geographical location. So maybe considering also such areas, the women's movement, there might be certain groups or certain communities, marginalized communities of people that might want to also have community radio initiatives that speak to their own issues. So maybe that's something also that we can think around. But also I think Madam Sandra and Honorable Sipo spoke to that reform in terms of the licensing process itself. Even our very capable MC spoke to that. Procedures that are easy, that are friendly, that are doable, that are practical for the communities themselves. So just to look at the licensing process to ensure that, firstly, that the process happens throughout the year. So instead of just waiting for an invitation from the authority, maybe we could consider having set timelines where the licenses, applications for licenses are being called for. I mean, we are still very far from realizing our goal to promote access to information in communities. So that's one angle that we can look at. Let's make sure the process is open. So instead of just waiting for the authority, I mean, it's been a while since I mean, I understand that some of them are not yet operational, but it's been a while since the last 14 community radio stations were licensed. So maybe if there was a timeline in terms of when we can expect the next licensing process or the next applications to be called out, that would be another key area for reform. So in short, I think these are some, and of course the licensing fees. Already we are speaking of sustainability, that while the community radio initiatives, they have been awarded the licenses, some of them are even afraid that they will reach the 18-month mark and they are not yet operational. So if we can also look at the issues of fees to ensure that there is the financial burden for the communities that want to access information and want to establish community radio initiatives that promote information that is contextual to them, that would be another angle also to look at as far as media reforms are concerned. I would want to end here for now, and of course be happy to continue the conversation later on plenary. But in brief, these are some of the key issues that we are raising, Honorable Deputy Minister, and we'll be happy to see those issues reflected in the Broadcasting Services Amendment Bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our solicitor, to our legal brains, for outlining some of the issues of principles that we need to see the Broadcasting Services Act speaking to. And I know it's a very timely conversation, and the space and the room to influence that particular process is now. And the space and room for us to have convergence with the position of government and that of community radios, of practitioners, of advocates, of activists even, of every citizen of Zimbabwe. This is the opportunity for us to really have a law that will speak to our collective aspiration and to ensure that broadcasting is a right. And it's an argument I often make to say the difference in starting any other business, or the difference in establishing any form of organization with that say of media, is that the media is it's a right. So it should be as easy as possible, so that the right can be pursuing the citizen. So if we are going to be having piles and piles of processes, procedures for one to enjoy their right, it ceases to be a right, but a privilege. So thank you, Nompilo, for outlining all those critical issues. So now we also want to hear from the horse's mouth. And we know he often says, my chairman of my license. So now we want to hear what the policy direction is. Takapiwa my license. I said, tichinoda kuti gadzise mutemo, tichinoda my license iwayo aireve chinhu, asangove my license. So where are we going now? Honorable Deputy Minister, it's a pleasure to invite you.
Thank you very much. You were trying to preempt me, huh? I recognize the MC and the conveners of this workshop, Honorable Mokone, in absentia, and other honorable members who are here, staff of Parliament. May I also recognize the Vice Chairperson of VMCZ, Zimbabwe Media Commission, Commissioner Maposa was here, standing in for Professor Makosongwe. I also recognize the head of VMCZ, Lofty Dube. Is he still around?
Yeah, actually, it's there somewhere.
Right, and also the coordinator of the Editors Forum, Jabulo Nule. I also recognize the chairperson of Zacras, the coordinator, and all of you who are here. Thank you very much for inviting us to this breakfast meeting. I've been listening to what you have been saying. Actually, let me repeat that as government, I've always said it, we are ahead of you. Some of the things you are saying here, we've already done that. This administration, since 2018, has actually done a great job in terms of law reforms. And it is in the media sector where there has been a lot of activity in terms of law reform. I think you agree with me. Since 2018, we've repealed IPA, thrown away IPA, and we now have, as you know, and we've been working with you, Freedom of Information Act, Zimbabwe Media Commission Act, and we are very soon going to have a conference to deal with the Zimbabwe Media Practitioners Bill, all of us. So there is a lot of activity because our aim as government is to transform the media sector into a multi-billion dollar industry. So all what you have been saying here, that government should do A, B, C, we are on target. We are on target, and you have been ticking our boxes, I'm sure. And you can see we've achieved everything in terms of the boxes. But however, I've noticed that you are now changing goalposts now. All of you, the speakers who came here before me, they are changing goalposts. You are making more demands, extra demands. You are no longer talking of the initial demand. Huh? You know that we've accomplished this as government. Now we are coming up with new demands. Let me be very clear with you. We have given licenses to you have been demanding, especially Zacras, to have opened up the airwaves. And we have done that. That box is ticked. Huh? Give us licenses. We gave out licenses. That box is ticked. Huh? And amend the Broadcasting Services Act. It's being done. It's ticked. So what else do you want? It's your boxes that are not ticked. You are not yet on air. Zacras. We gave licenses to 6 of your members. I've gone right around the country, and these are my reports from my assessment on the ground. I went on location throughout the country to see what we are doing, what your members are doing, and I can say that, somebody said that apart from 1 or 2, the rest, absolutely nothing. You are not serious. Now you are making further demands to say you want more licenses. No, we are not going to give you more licenses. We want you first to go on air. First. All these other radio stations must go on air first before we think of giving you extra licenses. Broadcasting is different from Fuvuza. Yeah? When you were applying for these licenses, I think most of you were lying, and you lied, and you were given licenses out of that lie, that you had the capacity to develop community radio station, which you have failed, most of you. Now you are saying, you gave us licenses, but we don't have money to set up shop. What is that now? And now you have roped in the services of my nice lawyer here. She's to make further demands on your behalf. You're not going to listen to that. What we want is for you to set up shop, to start broadcasting within the stipulated 18 months period. I went to Madziwa, there is nothing. I went to Tebe Mainama, I went to Binga, there is nothing. In Binga, there is actually nothing. Nothing on the ground. But we have been making a lot of noise. Even today again, we're making noise. When I was drinking my tea. Go and set up shop. Full stop. Let's stop talking. Just do what you are supposed to be doing. That's what we are expecting as government. We are happy that Ausheni, but Ausheni is on air, but we have to run around as government to assist Ausheni. Nyangani is already on air. We're going to launch it tomorrow, by the way. Tomorrow. One of the ministers is launching that tomorrow. Nyangani. Yes, it was assisted by UNESCO. Chimanimani is being assisted by UNESCO. Garawa by UNESCO. And we thank UNESCO because they are also giving them early warning systems. Not only that, they are also giving them, we are going to give the community their small radios. So we plan to launch Chimanimani possibly in the coming 2 weeks or so. So, you see, the problem we have in this country is that you only want to make noise. And a lot of you are hypocrites. You look at you just say you want to blame government, blame government, blame government. You are not blaming yourselves. This is the time for you to blame yourselves. That yes, we're given licenses, yes, but we haven't done anything. Come and tell us that you haven't done anything, that you can't do it. We wanted licenses, but we cannot do it. Ministry, government, can you assist? And yes, we'll assist. We've made a decision already to assist to acquire studio equipment because we know you're just making noise. And I've even talked to Zacras to say, okay, those people who have promised you studio equipment, where are they? Can they bring the equipment? We are not even worried where the equipment is coming from. Bring it. Bring it, the equipment. We're not worried whether it's coming from where and from where. As long as the donors are not going to interfere in the editorial content of that station. That's all. Now we are saying, we duty and so forth. When you apply for this license, you didn't know that you're going to pay duty. Yeah? You are going to pay duty. But if you liaise possibly with bars, I've told you about that, that if the equipment comes under bars, possibly you may not be able to pay duty. But the problem is that you rely too much on donors. And you let donors direct what you must do and what you should not do. But okay, in whatever you have been saying, the difference, you're a lawyer. These are community radio stations. These are not commercial stations. That's the difference. Now you want to transform yourselves into commercial stations. We've given license to commercial stations, and we've given license to community stations. You are not supposed to be profit making. You are not supposed to be making money. Yes, I know you're talking about sustainability. Yes, of course. You should be you should be there must be this community station must be sustainable. Yes, but already we've allowed to say go ahead and get adverts. We've said go ahead and get funding from those of your relatives in the diaspora. Yes, we are going to amend the broadcasting service to say to allow foreign investment into the media sector. I've already said it. For now, we are saying 40%. They can hold 40%, but not in these community radio stations we are talking about. We are talking about commercial. No investor can come in and pour their money in a venture that is not profitable. So, but if there are donors who are willing to come and give you studio equipment, I know Kalanga, Radio Kalanga, FES is chipped in, and they were given all the studio equipment by FES. And we're not even worried about that. That's actually what we want. But your problem is that, as I said before, you like talking too much without implementing what we agreed. We agreed that go out there and set up these stations. Yes, you've been making those demands. Yes, we have succumbed to your demands as government. So go and do what you were demanding. Now you are giving us a list of all this. Let me start with what you say. Government of Zimbabwe must promote the rights of community journalists to ensure their safety, especially the election period. This is a different demand altogether. Now you are going political. You are going political. Set up radio station and broadcast. That's all. Get content from the community. Don't be political. But okay, we agreed. No problem. fully respect editorial and programming independence of community radio station. Yes, we agreed. Because the content is coming from the community. Why should we oppose that? Unless you are thinking of something. This reminds me of radio, this radio Madziwa and radio Ntebe Manam. See, the community there is actually jittery because these two radio stations are seen as if they are for the opposition. You know why I'm saying that? In Ntebe Manama, the promoters of this station, they work for Studio 7. And the community, they say, is this part of Studio 7? So it's a situation which Nigel and your crew, you must go and attend to. Also in Masendo, you must in Madziwa, you must go and also attend to that, because there are those sentiments to say this Zacras thing is some political animal which is trying to use this radio station for their own political agenda. So you must go and sort out those things so that the community becomes part and parcel of all this. Right? We agree, there's no problem with that. To fully support the sustainability of community radio, yes, we agree. Right? To use the community radio broadcasting fund, yes, we will give you money, but there is no money right now in the broadcasting fund. Because the radio stations, which are those that are already in existence, they are not contributing to this fund because they are not making huge profits. Even ZBC itself is not contributing again. So until and such time when we get funding of these, from these radio stations, then we will think of actually assisting. But we are then assisting as government, as I said, we are assisting your stations with buying equipment. Although all of you, when you were doing your pitch during those public interviews, you assured the nation that with the resources, especially Zacras, you said you have the resources. Where are the resources? Chairman, where are the resources? Yeah? Okay, to promote foreign investment, not in the sector community. No, we promote foreign investment in the media industry as a whole, especially those that are commercial. I've said it, that we want to transform this into a multi-billion-dollar industry. Make the Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe more autonomous. Yes, they are already autonomous. But let me tell you one thing, which you possibly don't understand, but which you are trying to know as a lawyer. The Minister of Information will administer the Broadcasting Services Act. We administer Freedom of Information Act. We administer Zimbabwe Media Commission Act. We are going to administer the Zimbabwe Media Practitioners Act. So you cannot divorce us from that. We are the administrator. So don't say don't interfere. By the way, when I arrived at Murumtapa, I was assigned to superintend over all these parastatals and other allied companies, including ZMC by the Honorable Minister on her behalf. So I'm much. You cannot say don't interfere. We will. We will interfere because already. I think at one time when I was discussing about amendments to the Broadcasting Services Act, I mentioned that the minister, the interference of the minister is going to be removed from there. I think I mentioned that. To say, no, minister now, she's not going to, this particular minister or the other ministers who are going to come after him, they're not going to interfere. Yes, we're going to be, we want also the PSN to be autonomous, but we administer the act. They are answerable to us, by the way. And I'm the one who is superintending on behalf of the minister. So that must be very clear. The other thing is that amendments to the Broadcasting Services Act, when you're talking of policy, yes, next week, I think some of you have been invited, who have been Gweru, to deal specifically with those issues. Huh? They're invited. We are invited. So come there and we'll amend the act together. As I said, we're actually ahead. And our amendments are so good, more than yours. So because this administration, let me tell you, His Excellency, in his wisdom, in 2018, says he is going to reform the media sector. And when he appointed me, I want to repeat this again. When he appointed me, his marching orders to me were very clear. Paradza, go and assist your minister to make sure that the media sector is happy. With those few words, he was done with me. So we are doing exactly that. So, as I said, we are ahead of you. So come to Gweru next week and we will deal with all these issues. Then even what we're talking about bars, we are already, we've done that. Bars, we are saying in our amendments, bars from now onwards, they should be able to say each year they call for applications on a yearly basis. If you want that, if you want to improve on that one, come to Gweru next week, then we can discuss. To say if you want every week or every month, we can discuss that next week, if you want. But the bottom line is we want, before you make those demands, be on air first. Go on air. Right? Then I've talked about the percentage of foreigners. Yes, even we are allowing foreigners to be on the boards, when they call them editorial boards or whatever, on these stations, but not community, not for community, but for these other, which are of profit-making nature. So actually, I'm done. Actually, I'm done. I'm done. That's our policy. Our policy is very clear on that one. That we must free up the airways, and that we must allow more players to come in. Yes, we agree. We agree. So in other words, we are in agreement. So all what you have been saying, you have been just repeating yourselves. Any questions?
We'll take one plenary session.
Yeah. So I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah. But you thought I was going to give a long speech?
No.
No, I have it here, but I was not going to do that because. But as I said, I went right round all the community radio. So just take a seat. Okay. All the community radio stations, and it was really the situation there was not good. It was not pleasing at all. There was nothing at Bembes. Nothing in Wange. Only was shown all dilapidated buildings. Yeah? Right round. Only Nyanga, where we are launching tomorrow. At least we must thank the honorable member there, Superman Wanzira, has donated his building to this station. And now some of you, because he has donated, they were saying that this community radio station belongs to Super. No, it doesn't belong to Super. He just donated the building. And they're going on air. They're on air right now. So please, Zacras, be serious for the first time. Talk to your donors. Tell them that this government, they said, yes, bring the equipment. All the equipment. We're happy for that. All your members, the 6 of them, 8 out of 6, with 6 out of 8, we give them licenses. So please, let them bring the equipment. Let me just tell you when your licenses are expired. Debe Manama, it's expiring on the 4th of September. Dow Community Radio Trust, 6 July. Chimani, 14 July. Then Prikshashe Community, 7 December. Bembes, 29 April 2023. This is Xhosa language. Matobo Community Radio Trust, 7 June 2023. Emuganga Community Radio, 29 May 2023. Lieja, this is in Wange, Tonga and Dombe. 18 December this year, 2022. Madziwa, this was supposed to be 18 April, but this was wrong. They are coming in 2023. Their license is expiring 2023. Then Kasambezi, 30 May 2023. Twasambuka, 30 May 2023. Radio Kalanga, 18 April 2023. So, those are the timelines. And I'm happy that we're in this together, and that I think we're on the same page, reading from the same verse. I think, Mr. Dube, you agree with me?
For the first time.
For the first time. So I'm done. Any questions? You can now pause. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister, for addressing in particular the conversations that have emerged, and also speaking to some of the recommendations or demands as you put them. Only that there was a challenge in that some of the things you were saying we are agreeing with them. Naturally, some that you were saying we're not entirely agreeing. In particular, the point of interference, or unless maybe we are defining interference differently. But if you want to look at the charter that is government of Zimbabwe you belong to, that talks of broadcasting, or if you also want to look at our own constitution and the basic principles of separation of powers, certainly having an independent regulator is a no-brainer, Honorable Deputy Minister. But I'm sure we can engage on perhaps what we mean by interference, but to then have your esteemed office interfering on who gets licenses, or on what sort of regulations thereof that the regulator will be putting in place, and then so forth, will be entrenching too much power to already a powerful executive, which will be driving the agenda of growing the sector and not necessarily getting into the nitty-gritties of how that sector is regulated. And also for proponents of a co-regulation like yourself, surely we know maybe it's semantics, but we agree that no, we want an independent regulatory authority that will freely award those that would have been competent and those that are deserving, that will freely put in regulations that will ensure a fair playing ground for all actors, be they political, be they social, be they geographic, be they language. There is that impartial referee, so that government will concentrate on it. Kupower chayo kuti tiende mbele. But otherwise, a lot of the points, like you said, there are a lot of areas of convergence. And indeed, we are going to be amending the Broadcasting Services Act together. We'll be making each other, find each other. Like you said, there's no challenge now with the foreign funding or investment. And I like how you put it, that it's not just for community radios, but for the media sector. And people in this room, because they are all media stakeholders, I'm sure we are going to be billionaires, because the minister, the president said we are creating a multi-million-dollar industry. Multi-billion sector. Thank you very much. Now at this point, let's take a plenary session. The minister is also, Deputy Minister has also posed questions to us colleagues here, and has also given us certain issues to look into. So you are also welcome to engage on some of the issues that the Deputy Minister here has raised, to say, well, you said you are ready, give us our licenses. We gave you, what is happening? That was his question. It will also be good to have that conversation. He was also saying we are bringing in new demands. Parent minister, because and my right holders. Right solutions, but you raised very pertinent results that to us we should also reflect and share our challenges honestly and transparently, so that ultimately we can all develop our sector. So let's take a round of questions, engagements, comments, and so forth. Yes, Mulo, any other hands so that we take a round? Nompilo, one last hand. Yes, and gift. So in that order, Nompilo and gift.
Thank you so much, Comrade Moderator. I think I want to respond to some of the allegations by the minister. First of all, I think for our members, yes, we are having challenges. We've had challenges. Particularly the fact that you have mentioned that all along our laws have not been allowing us to involve donor support for community radio stations. So that has been a challenge. And as law-abiding citizens, communities have been attempting to mobilize resources within themselves so that we abide by the law. Because these are some of the issues that have been within the law, and we do not want to break the law. But now I want to appreciate the fact that the minister has said that the ministry will allow some of these stakeholders to assist. But
I think on that one,
yes.
I think it's fair to everyone. Eh?
Yes.
4 weeks ago,
yes.
I talked to you directly.
Yes, yes.
I said, please.
I'm coming to that. I will respond.
So why?
I will respond to that, Honorable Minister. So the thing is, we hope that this will be reflected even in the upcoming engagements. Then, to what the minister is talking about, yes, he told me, and we have engaged bars, and some of the equipment is coming. We've made some of the payments through bars assisting us. We talked about that, Minister. Then, Tepe Manama, I think of all the Zacras members, all of them will start going on air. Their deadline is most of our members, post-April 2023. I think we are preparing for that, we are ready. Then Tepe Manama is supposed to be on air by 30 September. So what we've done is that by 30 June they will be on air. They've finished, when you went there, we were in the process of actually assisting them. So now the acoustics and everything is ready. It's just that it's just a matter of delivering the equipment. Yeah, so those are the issues that I have. The issue of interference, Nigel has mentioned. By our hope is that some of the issues that you raised will be reflected in the law. If those issues are reflected in the law, we abide by the law. We are law-abiding citizens, and we promise that by the deadline, our radios will be ready. Thank you.
You're talking about interference. That we must not interfere.
Yes, that we must not interfere.
But don't you think that what we did in your case was
yes.
positive interference?
Which ones?
6 out of 8 of your members were given licenses. Is that a positive interference?
I think
that's positive interference.
You
should be.
No. Then
yes.
there's another issue
No. Was that not positive?
One chair. We are having one chair. Thank you.
You mentioned the issue of Tepe Manama. Yes, you raised that at some meeting, and when I heard, I was very disappointed to say, how is a foreign radio interfering? Then I then got in touch with Tepe, and they said that we had indicated with them the interference of some Studio 7. So the reporter that was actually part of that structure, they've removed him because they've realized that there is conflict of interest. He was assisting in terms of capacity, but they realized that there was some kind of conflict of interest. So that has been rectified. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And let's have no people.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I think for me, I would have just wanted to emphasize, because I fear that particularly for some of the community radio initiatives. You would think Chunu says Zacras and maybe some of the partners, Lisa and Mars. But actually, the entire reason why we are pushing for community radio initiatives and for media reform and for conditions that are conducive for their operation is that we want to make sure that communities enjoy media freedom and access to information. So, and everyone has a role to play in that regard, all stakeholders. So it's not the Zacras issue anymore. It's an all stakeholder issue to ensure that the communities can access information that is beneficial to them and that they can contribute also to the dissemination of such information. So I just wanted to put that out there, firstly, but also to highlight that, I mean, now that the community initiatives are being set up and there are going to be volunteers working in those areas, when we raise the issue of the safety of those community journalists, it's not political at all. We just want to ensure that they are able to also undertake their work and feed into the programming and the work of the community radio initiatives without any fear of any potential impact, negative impact on their physical being or on their work. But it's not an intention to be political, it's just ensuring that we create conducive environments for the people that are working in the community radio initiatives. And then the last issue, which seems to be very contentious, the interference of the ministry. I mean, your legal officer is right there next to you looking pretty. Honorable Deputy Minister. She knows, she knows very well what the Broadcasting Services Act says. When we are speaking about interference, what we are basically saying is that when you look at what the Act is saying, we are not doing away with the role of the minister. I mean, the minister plays a role in terms of giving policy direction, but also the board itself or the authority itself has functions that it's going to be undertaking on its own. And also in undertaking those functions, it can also advise the ministry on what needs to be adopted or on what policy direction should be considered or even what standards should be considered. So yes, there is an opportunity to work together, but it does not mean that the ministry influences the entire work of the Broadcasting Authority. The Broadcasting Authority has functions that it can undertake on its own, while the ministry may give policy direction, and also the authority can work together with the ministry in some instances. So what we are just trying to say is that we would appreciate also that, I mean, the authority undertakes its functions. Yes, we are happy for the ministry to also advise the authority, particularly in interventions that promote media freedom and promote our industry. But at the same time also, it's good for them to maintain their independence, particularly in the enforcement of their functions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Solicitor. Solicitor, your problem is that one, you are making assumptions that we are interfering. Well, did you get any complaints from us?
No, I'm not making an assumption.
So
I'm trying to defend the position of my stakeholders.
We are assuming that we are interfering. No, we are not interfering. We are just giving policy guidelines as the statutes. Also, there is this notion here that it is Zacras, it is MISA, it is VMCZ, and the others who are here, and who are only interested in the community, and that government is not against community. Where is that coming from? I told you we are ahead of all this. We want the community to be happy. We want the community there to have their own voices. We want information, government information, to reach the community. So we actually want more outlets out there, more outlets. Get it from me. We want more outlets out there. The problem is that get off the ground now. Then we can give you more licenses. Not only that, not only community radio licenses, including community television licenses as well. We're going to give you through bars, but the policy comes from us. Because isuka this government has got stay until and this no our role as government to make sure that the citizenry is taken care of. Give me more patronage.
I think my point here, politics, Nompilo, Deputy Minister, I want to election period for about politics. Yes, a gift.
Yeah, so Nompilo raised the point well, that once the initiatives are licensed, this ceases to be a Zacras ministry issue, it becomes an all stakeholders issue. That's what I wanted to raise to the minister. But also to thank him and acknowledge that their presence on the ground is making life easier for stakeholders, for communities. I think they must just continue on that path.
Thank you very much. I think His Excellency made a very good decision. So what we are doing as government is that we are, as I said, we have also funded this community radio station, but no strings attached. They have their own editorial content, and it's buzz which is going to possibly to look at that content and monitor it. Not government, but buzz. So, but what we want is the voices of those respective communities to be heard through these radio stations. This is why we want this to be on the air as soon as possible. Yesterday, actually. So we are together.
So we share that desire, the David Minister. But when we say we are rich and wealthy as Zacras in terms of pushing for the community radios to be on air, we don't mean in monetary terms or in terms of equipment. Our wealthiness or our richness comes from being able to mobilize the diverse voices and the different communities to come forward. For example, if we engage the people of Makonde and say they want a community radio station, we are not going to fund them, but the idea is just to amplify their voice so that them and their MP can also see how they can fund that particular radio initiative.
Of course, they are, like in all the communities which where I visited, they were actually contributing. The community themselves. Because they really want these radio stations. Imima varonokera, they really want this. Yeah. Imi ndimakati etosgona Zacras. But now, when I was in Binga, you were making noise and you were there since 2001 to 2004? Binga? 2008. So what were you doing from 2009? It's just noise. Do you have any structure? No structure. Nothing.
Keep talking.
Yeah, Saka. And who is your team? Who are the presenters? Who are the content creators? Nothing. Saka, do you check it?
You would notice that
that's why the minister, in her wisdom, says that pay. That pay. Zacras, actually, he pay. And the 6, if in them apply a mess, yes, you need to apply food to look by.
All right, I recognize Jabulo Nube, Lofty. One more hand, preferably from the ladies.
Can I start on Jabulo because it's related to what is being.
All right, so okay. Lofty then Jabulo.
Honorable Minister, thank you very much. I think the Minister is doing a good job. It's my first time again to say this. He's doing a very good job.
Thank you so much.
I think the issue of interference sometimes might be a perception issue. I'm going to give you an example. So that sometimes when the ministry does things, they first look back and say, you know, I know all of you got an invitation for Nyangani tomorrow. So my question I asked myself when I got the invitation, is it the ministry which is going to launch this, or is Nyangani inviting people to the launch of their station? So it's, in terms of a perception issue, this is a government project, according to me, because they are the ones who are inviting people, they are organizing everything. To me, it was not there, it's a perception issue.
You know what?
Let Nyangani do it.
You know what?
Say the ministry is there.
Do you know what?
They don't invite.
They have no capacity
to invite.
They have no capacity. So we are doing that on their behalf. Hakuna chidu. So we for it to we are chipping in. Yes. But not that we are going to interfere with their content. No, we are not going to.
I understand the government's goodwill in terms of all this, in terms of even supporting. But that perception, that's them. Because when I'm looking backwards, whatever, in history, so it's a perception issue that I think maybe.
Do you know your problem?
No, it's not a problem.
No, your problem. That's what I'm know. Do you know your problem? Oh, not you. You see, anything which is it's like the opposition. My elections are win one opposition. Therefore, they are changing. Aka win ne city government. They've been rigged. That's the perception out there. If government interferes, you are saying if government does something which is positive, government is interfering. Because our minister is going to launch. So at something good which is happening. That's why we had to interfere.
Thank you.
But this is positive interference.
Very positive. Can I just finish my question? I really appreciate that. And I appreciate even the statement by Gift that this ministry, dating back to first whatever, is so engaging. You're on the ground.
That's why I'm here.
And can I just maybe just 1 minute?
Yes,
can I also do a point in terms of that when you come here, I'm sure you take the advice from the comrades. Even though some of it comes crooked, some of it direct, some of it very politely, some of it very rudely. But I think there is that perspective in terms of synthesizing, especially some of the advice. Why I'm saying that is I was in Kenya over the weekend. I came back a day ago. Kenya jumped from number 137 on the World Press Index to number 60 something. This is a phenomenal jump.
Yeah.
And one of the obvious things, I'm from Zimbabwe, where we, despite all the good things we have done, we moved from number 130 to number 137, which is very bad for a government that has done a lot of work. But what are the key things? We asked the Kenyan guys, how do you guys do it? Their commission was clear on small things that are indicators for violations. What happens when a journalist, like when I woke up I arrived to the news that there was a journalist who was arrested. Normally, our law enforcement agents want to enforce the law, but there are other things that go beyond them, that affect the whole good of a country. So those guys were clear to say, if a policeman, if they hear that they are about to arrest someone, they jump and do this and that stops that. Because normally when you take a journalist to a station, it's a violation. And already for 2023, don't be surprised because we already have 2 violations. They are arrest cheat. These are small things. We need to come to you and say, but they are indicators. I'm sure Sylvia will help the minister to organize a conference. Say, how are we getting it badly out there? They are indicators that we need to fill them out. One of them is the simple one I've mentioned. It's so simple, you stop that. And you stop that to ensuring that the police officers, I do not see any reason why they should have been detained when the press card and not. It should have been solved at that level. Yeah. So it's an easy issue that maybe we'll start with our law enforcement, but through the ministry and the commission. Yeah. So it's something we learn from each other.
My examples are.
Thank you.
Yeah, my example.
My example.
Yeah. But do you know why we are not we are going on our index? We are going bad and so forth worse. It is because of you guys. Right now with this, we've done all this, but still they say we haven't done it. So if you give this to Reporters Without Borders, they will think nothing is being happening in Zimbabwe. And this is precisely information information Reporters Without Borders. So our index, of course, will remain up there. Instead of saying, here are the positives which this government has done. Hamudi, but you want to only to dwell on the perceived negatives, which is wrong.
We need to engage.
Which is wrong, I'm telling you. This is why when I was giving a lecture, kunast. You see, you are fond of confrontational journalism instead of solution journalism. Okay, do you even have solutions? Government, chitipai ma solutions but solutions. You don't. So it's really wrong. You're talking of Kenya. Kenyan media, they are patriotic. Very patriotic. They are not members of whatever, or in Tanzania, let me give you an example of Tanzania. They are not members of Chama Mapinduzi, but they are Tanzanians. They are Kenyans, first and foremost. Maybe you must be Zimbabweans, first and foremost. Not for you to feed nonsense just because you want to survive. It's wrong. I know most of your organizations survive on donor money. All of them on donor money. So you think if you antagonize government, therefore don't marry we. Of course, but what are you doing as a Zimbabwe to make sure that your country develops? So let's assist each other. This is why this administration, since 2018, has been very engaging. And this is possibly why His Excellency appointed your own point person. And I'm not to check you.
What has emerged is, before I give you Comrade JB, it's a battle of perception.
Yeah.
So, for example, Masman, Belinda was showing me a section of the current act, which says where the board has been directed, that is the Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe, such direction should be obtained in their annual report to say here there was a level of interference, and so forth. So there are sort of some legal safeguards already as it is against interference. But like you put Loft, that it's not enough to then say, well, panic close when there is perception. It's also not enough, or I guess, on the part of the ministry. Kana kune perception kuti our advocacy is hinged on kutsvaga mari yemadhoni. So all those perceptions need to be, demystified and clarified. To a progressive law, and to also an environment conducive, not ultimately, like you said, Zimbabwe, so those political perceptions, Honorable, they need to be dealt with somewhat, either by terms of further tightening the law, or by further engagement. Material, we also need to be demonstrating with no, we are not singing for our supper. Should affect the community. On air, create these communities. It's a cause for concern for us because we want them on air. Reforms. It's a concern for us because we don't want to be advocates. Some miss the newsroom. They want to be going back to write column.
Go there.
All right, Jabulo.
Thank you very much, Honorable, for your frank assessment of the state of preparedness and to go on air for some of 14 that were licensed. Giving the German assessment, I think the Anamlo will try and, I know you tried to tell us that something is being done, but I don't think that is enough. My appeal to you, Honorable, that you engage UNESCO as you did assist the Chirezi and the Chimanimani community radio station to come on board so that we assist our colleagues to go on air. I don't think that is the problem for you. already UNESCO has been on board to assist. Can they extend the hand, the other 12, while they waiting for what is coming as we talk?
Okay.
Then the issue of...
Okay, James,
Yes, ma'am.
before we proceed. Okay. Where are the donors who have been saying to Zacras, get license and we'll fund you? Where are they now? This is what I
they are coming.
So, I can do that gas equipment.
But while they are coming, can UNESCO, which is already here and assisted, can they try and also...
UNESCO is assisted in 3. You know why they benefited those in Manicaland?
Yes.
Because of the cyclone. So they gave us 3 studio equipment for the 3 radio stations. This is why they are also giving us early warning systems for those areas. So, but then you are saying, that's why I said you have shifted now. The narrative is shifted to say, okay, multiple licenses, now give us the studio equipment as well.
There's a president, honorable, where you were also involved. Took UNESCO, I saw the director of UNESCO. That's my point. And then the issue...
No, James, that I gave an example here, Ukalanga, to say FES gave them the studio equipment. And we have no problems with that. We actually assisted them in clearing the equipment for your own information. Right? Then we are saying, I'm saying, Zacras was making noise. Hey, to my license. Because they're being pushed them at Donaska. Now those donors must now give them equipment and you assist them to clear the equipment. End of my sessions. Now, but Muruguti, government, they've changed the narrative. And the good lawyer there has joined again.
And then the issue of perception keeps talking up to say change, for instance, the case of Nyangani, for instance, super donated building. That perception will persist if we allow such intervention. I'm saying that because if we look at the leadership of Madziva, for instance, radio station, who is the chairperson? If we look at who is the chairperson of Chimani radio station, you see where the perceptions are coming from.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Let me tell you one thing. Even these the Zacras, who are members of Zacras, not one of them have their own building. For your own information. In Shashi, in Benbridge, wakapuwa ne council. In Ntebe, Manama wakapuwa ne Chikoro. Church. In Plumtree, wakapuwa ne council. In Matobo, there is a businessman akakocho shadisha hapa. Then in Wange, wakapuwa ne colliery. Then in Nyanga, Madziwa, a council. So what's wrong now? Super, anemba yake akatichisha nzaimba yake. Council. Council. Super sina kudaro. That person is right now. Super council. Super is MP. Okay. Imimi, all right. Imimi. Give us Imimi the Zacras in Imimi. If pay accommodation. We don't even care for your own information. From wherever sources the marry so this perception is ndo yakaipa kufunza kuti chitu chaitwa ndi opposite ndo chakanaka chete chikaitwa ne government achina kunaka. So dayanga iri MDC hapa nikiri mchifanaka oro triple C
We're going to raise the same.
It's okay. Yes, yes.
All right, take Kwangwari. All right, let's sorry before Kwangwari. Is there any other intervention so that we wrap up by show of hands? No, sununguka what vakwenda havasa vango ingori indicator vasati vaenda saka kana pane musazochema kana kuzomirira kunyorera, you know, we normally like that. Vari panapa hatikuda kuengage tozongomira kukanda iri statement condemning in the strongest.
Exactly.
Let us engage with him.
Exactly.
Now, okay, so kana pasina we'll take Kwangwari. To any intervention from the Deputy Minister so that we wrap up. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Nigel. And thank you, Deputy Minister, for availing yourself and for supporting what you are raising as Zimbabweans. Because we are not yours, you are actually ours. It's us who chose you, and you are working for us. And I want to emphasize the issue that Gift and Nompilo raised, that the bigger picture, the bigger thing is the communities that we are trying to assist, so that they can exercise their right, they can enjoy their right to freedom of expression, access to information, and they are able to share information in their communities for development. I think that must be the key thing that we rally on to get, regardless of where one is at the moment. So let's move together like that without trying to say who is failing where or is doing what. I mean, let's come together and cover those gaps. We become better as Zimbabwe, not as Zacras or as well, but together as Zimbabwe. I think that point is very important. With that spirit, we will not set each other for failure or saying we want to see whether they're going to make it here or whether the government is going to do this or the government saying whether Zacras will be successful here or no. Let's say our community is going to enjoy rights as we want together. And then lastly, I want to talk about the donations issue, and I want to make reference to the principles of community broadcasting, especially on the issues of donations and support. Oftentimes, in fact, the international principles say that there must be a cap in terms of what an individual or an institution can contribute to the budget of a community. And these are issues related to editorial independence. Because if you are going to say, for example, Super donates his house and equipment, I can imagine in that community if Super perhaps is, for interest sake, as an example, abusing women in that community, and the community radio has to raise that. I can imagine whether the community... No, I'm just giving you an example. And by the way, I still appreciate what you've been doing, and I'm one of the people who was also clamoring for a long time for the licensing, and I appreciate that. But I want us to move together. I see here saying post-licensing, to say, how do we move ahead? And we need to confront a reality at the point of licensing. And that reality is that the government or BAS licensed community radio initiatives and communities, and we need to make this distinction. A community radio initiative is a group of people, a community that have been clamoring and they are making noise and they are organized in a certain way. And they say, we need a license. And then there's a community like Chimanman, like Nyanga, like Bembes, like, you know, you talked about 6 for Zacras and 8 other communities, languages. Nothing was happening there before you licensed them. So they were allocated a license, and some of them don't understand what it's about. What are we supposed to do? And what is it? A community radio. And others are saying, but BC, no. They don't understand what it is about. So we need to confront that reality and say, how do we assist from the ground to start with? And we shouldn't be surprised that they can't even invite, because they don't even know that it's theirs to begin with. So that's part of the work that we need to see happening at the moment, to create that capacity. And that's why the sustainability issue is coming up. And on the sustainability issue, we need to make it clear again that it is not just financial sustainability. In fact, the most critical sustainability beyond finance, and finance will come, is the social sustainability. And what I mean by social sustainability is the extent to which the community remains interested, committed, and owning that community radio as theirs, like they do Babo. Babo in a community, everyone knows that will benefit from this. And they get organized, say, how do we maintain it? How do we keep it working? They pay a pump manager or bore manager or whatever in their community. Dollar, it's a household. They don't even ask you a question, say, the manager, the person who's maintaining the power needs $1, so it's contributing. Others will say, oh, they're worse and everything, because it makes sense to them. And the same principle must apply to community radios. They must appreciate that it changes their lives, especially in communities like Chimanima. If they see its role in disaster mitigation and early warning systems that you talk about, UNESCO emphasizes a lot of that. If it's there, they are mobilized around it. And I can understand what Loft raised, that if it's the government that is inviting people to an official opening of a community radio in Chimanima or wherever, it is the government's project.
Saka, tell me one thing. Saka, how the government?
No.
I was doing Saka. No. So you are sort of anti-government.
No, let me finish. Let me finish. Remember, I'm not criticizing why you did it. I'm criticizing the way you did it. Right? If you had wanted, you could have your stakeholders there, and even people in your ministry who can actually work with the Zacras, with UNESCO, and assist the community to do the process.
All right. I hear you.
So it's not about why you're doing it, but it's the way, the manner you're doing it, which fits the perception. That
I hear you. Let's not talk about perception. Let's finish about perception. I hear you. Actually, this radio station, it's renting Super's house. But when I went there, please, mune wana kupi mari kurenda. Havana man. Because you are giving us a budget, government is tibadari. You know? So, it's super. Government wada ina mari kubadara. So, why don't you just donate this? Then it's agreed to donate. And so, what you are saying is precisely, you are correct. It's in my reports. Actually, my board of governors, or whatever I call them, community virtually who are running this radio station, we got total induction. Because we don't know what was about. Pandakawati, chinu chenyu ichi, as check government. We got to shamise what. As check government, they change. They change you at least, you know. So so that's what we are saying. We are not to the induction. They need induction. Zacras, please, to the induction, so that they understand, so that they take ownership. But that was going to you are talking of independence. You are talking of not interference. You see. Amuskuti mukangona chunchani government mukati chaipa but sina government mukati chakanaka ndo the perception iripo this was government yakonzi in something to do chaipa. But let me tell you one thing. If it is ZMC, who appointed them?
President.
The president will reject government. Saka. So who appointed parliament? But parliament stand rules. Who interviewed them?
So
who interviewed them? My MPs. My MPs are Vagubi. They are political parties. From political parties. Yeah. So it's political.
Yes. So
there is nothing like independence.
Let me conclude.
Because it's political.
Let me conclude.
Because the MPs rekan botaura. Yes. Rekan botaura. Because one speaker at a time. Apana kuti mukati yanzi independent. Saka vanobva from somewhere. Ato apo they are independent. No.
Okay.
Yes.
So let me conclude. Yeah. That's why I said I'm not against government support. In fact, in many, that's another principle that government can support community radios, right? But the way it's done, it's the way it's done that I was challenging, that I was raising an issue about. In fact, I'm raising it not to make it, not to say you are a bad government or you are a bad minister. I'm saying, let's find a way of doing it. In South Africa, they've got the MDD. It's for purpose of addressing, so that when the people, I know PAS, for example, also goes with the UNESCO for the training and stuff.
Yes, Zacras,
that's a different approach. So how best can we deal with that perception? It's very important that we deal with it without necessarily saying the government must not support or must not assist.
No. Okay. Apart from perception, government they can't support. Apart from perception.
Oh, that example for
perception. Perception.
But perception.
Can you release take time about perception?
Perception is reality until proven otherwise, and people make decisions based on perception.
Are there any complaints with government?
We're raising it, Minister.
All right, let us, sorry, Pambari, for the chairperson is intervening. Let's close this debate. Let's also drift away from the objectives of this meeting, which are to address the legal and administrative challenges for the sustainability of community radios and the media policy direction. So let's not, focus too much on Maasai engagement. They are necessary because they still inform that policy direction and still inform the law reform, but they are not the crux. The crux, I think it Tavenayo, Janzina Deputy Minister, Mutemo Tukuongorola Pamechete, my challenges, Emma community radios, Tukumaongorora, Shakari, Pamechete, and they could ensure editorial independence. Should make sure even in terms of my statute that are kuti awongo mavandu anzira makaita henyu kudoneta asi masafeguards achanga aripo kuensure editorial independence achanga akadai hamutati nekuti wadoneta therefore chako kana kuti body rane influence yako kana maeditor ane influence yako ayo kana campaign yako aiwa no it's about community. So thank you very much. Commissioner, you had a quick intervention.
Yeah, but it's somewhat taken care of. But maybe just to reiterate that the government is a role to play, but the mechanisms is what Omar Kongad was talking about. To say there are economic blueprints that the government preside over, maybe even the national development strategy. And you would notice that the media, they play a critical role in facilitating the material realization of that. Even the concept of leaving no one behind and no place behind. So at times when government chips in, it's that drive of the broader picture of where is the national trajectory. And when opportunities to include historically marginalized communities appear, the government finds a way of making sure that it's actually a celebratory approach to say, this is good and this is in tandem with the trust of the government. To say we want every place. So, but the mechanism now, but I think it's actually good and applaudable, but the mechanism, like you're saying, good to say, government in a trust here. There's the Freedom of Information Act, in as much as it's deposited under the Small Media Commission, but where does it fit? So these things are not disjointed. It's there to facilitate a national picture, a national character, legally, socially, culturally. And the government is interested in that because, preside over that through various ministries. So I think they are coming, it could have been erroneous, but I think it's informed by that. This is an opportunity. So let's embrace these positive steps and participate with these people rather than folding their hands and watch as things. I think they're actually in a celebratory mood.
Yeah. So together with government, let's not allow these community radio stations to go away without being licensed and broadcast.
And the editorial interference is not the government. It's individuals commerce, kana tichiri valava kuti advertise. It's not advertisers acho. Apindiri. Kana nenanga dzacho nemaprofita.
Pandakatenderera ndakavaudza zvese izvozvo. Kuti ma-politicians, we don't want them to interfere.
Yes.
Mambo nevanhu venyu churu chenyuchi. Yeah. Community.
Aiwa ndizvozvo. No, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the plenary session. We come to the conclusion of our meeting. I will ask my chairperson for the Alliance to come and give the closing remarks and vote of thanks, as it were. Thank you very much.
But vasati vataura, if you feel so strongly about nyaya super, chita yaka fundraise munovavakira itai fundraise wanzoere kwangwani itai fundraise. Sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to first of all thank the Deputy Minister for gracing this occasion. We don't take it lightly that when we have such critical national engagements, we find our leaders coming in to listen. It really happens, and I think I want to commend, especially, I don't know whether the other ministries do that, but I know this ministry of ours that we have has been all-encompassing. You know, it's rare to get a whole minister, a deputy, and sometimes a permanent secretary attending a function. But we have seen it happening. I think governments, you need to first of all give them a pump up. There's no perception. There is no perception in that. It's real. It's happening. and we appreciate that. Also, allow me to thank the parliamentarians who are here. I'm not sure they're still here. The chairperson of the committee, Honorable Bugone, and the other honorables I saw. Also, allow me to thank Deputy Commissioner Jasper Maposa from the ZMC for also coming in here to listen to concerns, especially on the broadcasting sector. I think this debate has been a very good debate, including the issues of perception, because we need to move together and clear perceptions. In a lot of things, in a lot of scenarios that go wrong, even in times of war, even if you look at the Russia-Ukraine, it's a perception issue. Someone has got their strong views and someone has got their strong views, and when it comes to interpretation, that's where a lot of people lose each other in terms of perception, in terms of how you perceive a position from elsewhere. I also want to thank us, how did you say the citizens? They are not citizens. They are not citizens. I want to thank civil society and members of our partners who are here. I noticed CNF is here, media monitors, and Mars and the other comrades who are here. It's good to sit down and deliberate on issues. You know, when we come up with broadcasting, the Honorable spoke about the Kenyans. He knows them. We were with them in a different program. Honorable Maposa and the Nyamutungu are going to be with them this year. When you talk Kenyan, they close ranks. They close ranks. Actually, for my own assessment, I thought they were the best in terms of, look at their laws, there's something wrong, but talk to them. No, all of them, whatever sphere they're coming from, they close ranks when it comes to Kenya. And for that to happen, we need to clear perceptions and come up with a national consensus on almost everything. Because what we are doing in our lives, all of us are temporary wherever we are. We are not going to be there for long. Countries that are enjoying democracy, that are enjoying fruits on anything, they are basing that on the fruits, on the selflessness of people who were there before them. Other people did not look beyond their stomachs. I want to say big. They did not look beyond their stomachs. They looked at posterity and said, what do we get? I was in Kenya, I did not meet a pothole. Even in my night surveys that we do Nigel, I did not meet a pothole. In corners to share beans, there is not one pothole. And it's a result of selflessness that arises from someone's selflessness, commitment to the national cause. And sometimes we need to do away with our own perception of how we think about others. You know, Honorable was going to say, the minister was invited to the Kenya World Press Freedom Day. I think about 45 minutes was question time. He did not respond. What he did was a simple took down the concerns. He says, I am going to look at each and every one of them. I will not speak at the spur of a moment. He was receptive to the fact that he did not own a monopoly on understanding and appreciating everything on press freedom issues. We are different people, we understand different things, we can't know it all. Sometimes the smart ones and the good ones and the bad ones take advice at times. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a conversation. This is not the end. I have not yet been invited, Belinda, to next week's.
Okay. We're just confirming.
Not that I said, can you invite me now?
Center for Applied Legal Research, they're the ones that are
organizing that.
it.
Yes.
So we'll send it maybe before the end of this week. Definitely before the end of this week, today or tomorrow.
So we hope the honorable is not that it's the love of the donor money. No. It's the love of what we believe in. So that when next time when you talk about community radio stations, we say yes, they are our community radio stations, and we all of us actually, irrespective of the political divide. These things of political divides are also perception. So what do you believe this and that is a perception? So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I think we're going to continue the discussions. The discussions shape us as a nation. A nation that does not dialogue perishes. Whether we dialogue on things we like or don't like, or we understand or not, but putting across our views, whether they are palatable or unpalatable, it helps us shape a position. The world is a contested terrain of ideas which need to be discussed. Ladies and gentlemen, let's continue discussions. I want to thank the minister once more. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those concluding remarks.